Hi everybody, this is MaDonna from Mad Bees Quilt and Sew, and it is Monday, so it is our Making It Monday with me. And so we're also doing something else fun this week. As promised, or kind of, I'm doing a pop-up class this week, and so I've been asked, what's a pop-up class? Well, it was something that wasn't on the schedule, but it was decided that we had some free time on Saturday afternoon, and some of the ladies here were hoping to be able to get a class in. So I decided on a class. They have no idea what I decided on. So I'm going to do something out of the Quick as a Wink book. Okay, so the Quick as a Wink book is a book that uses 3 one-yard cuts of fabric. And nice, easy patterns, fast to sew out. We should be able to get it done in the time that I've given you, it would be great. So what I decided was I'm going to reduce the price of the class considerably. So it's going to be a 4-hour class. Saturday, March the 6th from 1 till 5. A normal class fee would be what, 4 hours times $8 an hour, $32. But this Saturday, since the time was available, only this Saturday, the class is $15 plus you need to bring in a couple of perishable, non-perishable items. So we'll have a box there and we'll get it all put together and we'll be donating food to the local food bank. So here we go again. The quilt is going to be from the 3-yard Quick as a Wink book. The class is Saturday, March 6th from 1 o'clock until 5 o'clock. Yes, we're going to stay open an extra hour. It's $15. You need to bring with you a couple of non-perishable food items that we will donate, and we're going to work out of this book. The quilt that I picked out of here is called Entwined. Let me get to the right page. It is this one here. Super cute. Look at my fabrics. I've got most of it done. The rest of the blocks are here. I had to give up last night, okay? I sew a lot, but you know what? There comes a point where I too have to say uncle. But I've got 2 blocks done. I'll have all the blocks done for Saturday. So when you register, you're going to get your supply list. A couple of things that I would have your fabrics pre-cut. There is nothing complicated about the cutting instructions for this. So the only thing that I didn't pre-cut was my binding strips, because I know that I like a little bit wider of a binding than what she puts in there. So when you're reading your instructions, I believe it's under fabric number 1, it says cut 5 1 1/4 inch strips for binding. Don't do that, because that's a really skinny binding. So we're going to be doing Entwined on Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Please join us for that. And please bring a donation of non-perishable items that we can donate to the food bank. Okay, so that's that. Quick as a Wink, easy book. Most of you have it, or tons of you have it. So.
And they can call now and sign up for that.
Oh yes, it's already on the computer. Deanna and I got it all put in, and you can go ahead and sign up. One of the things that's a little bit different on it is I do want you to pre-cut. And the second thing is I've asked you to bring some Post-it notes, because these little sections, once you pre-cut, they start to get a little confusing. It's not hard. This is a nice pattern, but I just don't want you to get confused as you're going through it. So that's for Saturday. So I hope everybody likes that. Let's get some thumbs up on that, okay? Because, you know, we want to hear that you like that one. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is our Making It Monday block. It is a log cabin variation block, it's considered. It's actually almost exactly a log cabin. So a log cabin has typically been designed to have a center chimney, they call it. So it is a center piece that most of them are red because of the heart of the home. I've also seen them done with yellow because it's the fire and the yellow color from the fire. In history, I have heard, and I have not done my research on it, but that these quilts were done and they were used in different ways of saying if the house was a safe spot for when people were on the run from slavery in the South. I need to research a little bit more, and you know, maybe that would be one of our blah 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 blah. It will be one of our Be a 10 meetings. There's a little bit of quilt block history. I think that would be kind of fun. So something else to put on my plate. So I am starting with the red squares for the center of mine. And in the instructions for this one, it works on us doing a sew and cut method. Not my favorite method. because I feel like I really want to keep things accurate. So in the instructions, it says cut your 3 red center squares at 1.5. Cut from your variety of strips, and I've got 4 different fabrics here. 1.5 by 42 inch, light and dark for the logs. You can also use your leftovers. So I had enough to be able to cut a strip off of each one of them. And we're going to sew and cut and sew and cut. That kind of makes me stress out a little bit. And my reason for stressing out is that when you sew and cut, you're not measuring to make sure that you're accurate. So I'm going to do it today for 2 of the blocks, and one of them I'm going to do with actually cutting along the way. So I'm going to start off with my center, and in the instructions on page 30, if you're looking at the book, it has me sew the little red center onto a light piece of fabric. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to line it up on top of it, and I'm going to sew an edge. And honestly, truly, it doesn't matter which edge, but it does, because then you're going to have to do more cutting. I'm going to sew right along this edge at my 1/4 inch. Line it up. Make sure my nose is in front of my needle. My presser foot is where I need it to be. I'm nice and straight. I've got my tape on and it looks great. I'm going to then give myself a couple stitches into the fabric and go ahead and go. When I sew to finish, I'm going to sew a couple stitches past the end of that so that my 1/4 inch winds up to be right at that 1/4 inch of the edge of the fabric. That way I know that my stitches are locked into place. I'm going to lift this up, pull it out from underneath, and then I'm going to open it up, and I'm just going to finger press today. And the only reason I'm going to finger press and not truly press is because I didn't bring an iron in here. Okay, so then what I'm supposed to do is now rotary cut this straight. And I just don't like that method because I really have to be careful of how this is going to work out. So I'm going to lay this on top, and even if I pressed it with an iron, I still have to just kind of square this up, put it on there, and make sure that everything stays square. I could, oops, this is why I don't like sitting down and cutting. Okay, so there's my one side. I'm going to flip it around. And right now, I'm going to cut this side. Okay, but I can already see, can you get a little closer, Deanna? See how it's not sitting perfectly straight right there? So then I'm going to move it a little bit and play with it. Whereas if I cut a 1.5 inch square, I'm going to know that this is a 1.5 inch square. So I can look at it and see how square it is. And right now, can you see, it's not much, but I'm off. So then when I'm attaching the next one, I'm going to be off a little bit. That doesn't make me happy. Whereas if I cut a 1.5 inch square, what ruler did I grab? Oh my gosh. Let's see if I can find a 1.5 inch square. Okay, so 1.5, 1.5. I don't even know if that is.
I'm going to grab another ruler. You can talk to them for a bit.
Okay, I'll talk for a minute. Okay, hi guys, I'll talk for a minute. Oh yes, okay, so Deanna's going to go grab me a better ruler because that one's just way too confusing for my brain to handle. So when you're cutting, stand up, okay, because I was just going to try to cut with that and I could feel that I was going to hit right into the ruler, and that's not a good idea. The other thing I'm going to talk about for just a second is Orophil Thread. So Orophil Thread is the thread that we love here at the store and that we sell tons of. I'm using a neutral gray today, and I'm going to show you a trick about it. A lot of people can never find the end of it. Well, the easiest way to find the end is to pop the end off. It actually comes right off. And you can even store it that way. Wrap it around and then just put it across the bottom here. And you can roll it around and then put the cap back on, and it'll keep it in place for you so that it's not unspooling in your bag. So it's awesome because of that. But it's a super fine thread that comes from Italy, and the thread quality is great. The lint is so little, but it's an awesome product to be using. So I can hear Deanna coming down the hallway as we speak, and I'm sorry about that, not having that ready. I just grabbed the ruler and I thought, oh, this could work. Go grab one from Kate. Okay, so this one is much better. This will work actually, Deanna. I can see my square lines on it, and that's what I was worried about. I guess I forgot my quilter select today. So I can already see when I look at this piece of fabric here, when I line it up on my grid, I can see that it's already a little bit off. So I'm going to square that up. But first I'm going to cut a square just bigger than 1.5. So I'm actually cutting a rectangle. And then I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to spin it around, and I'm going to cut it now to my 1.5 so that I know that I'm smack dab on. Am I a little bit of a perfectionist? Absolutely. I always say that, you know, it doesn't matter, but it does, because we like things to be right. So now when I put my two pieces together, I am going to know that they're exactly the right size. And look at how pretty that is. Neither one of them are going to be off. They're going to go together super simple. I'm going to sew with them on the table here and go right up underneath. I'm going to start just off so that I can get a couple of stitches going before I start. Pull it out, cut it off. Take a peek at it, and I can see it's still staying square. When I open it up and I finger press it, I'm going to be super happy with my piece. Much nicer. So let's look at this one and let's look at this one. Same idea, but just I'm going to be happier knowing that it's really, really square. See how that end just comes in on that one? That does not make me happy. I want to be happy. Okay, so from this one now, because I'll undo that one. So now I'm going to create my next log to go on that. And it says that I want to choose a darker color for the next round, okay? And the typical way for a log cabin block is that we do lights on one side and darks on the other. But this log cabin only has a couple rounds on it, so I'm not quite so worried about that. So I've got my first piece and my second piece. I'm actually going to turn this so this winds up being my center of my home, okay? And then I'm going to measure and put a piece right across the top here. So I'm going to measure my quilt here and see, let's put this on top of there. I'm going to measure my little pieces here, put my ruler on there, and I am exactly at 2.5 inches, which means I did a good 1/4 inch, okay? So I'm going to measure my next piece of fabric at 2.5. I think I'm going to go with this turquoisey piece. So I'm going to measure again. Their method would be that I would take this piece, put it on top of here, sew it, and then cut it. Much easier to be perfect if you, close to perfect, if you do measuring. Okay, so I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put it on there. I still have my selvage in there. I know that. I'm going to put this underneath my ruler, and I'm going to cut it off at 3 inches. Okay, so why am I doing this where I left my selvage and now I'm going to go back? The reason I do it is I know I can get, when I have a longer piece of fabric, I can get a better cut. More is being held steady underneath my ruler. I'm going to spin this back around. I'm going to put this at 2.5. And I'm going to trim that off. Now I'm going to attach that to this. Okay, and the way that this is sitting, it's got to be this direction, and I'm going to attach this. Now, I could keep going. I could have done the white on the 3 sides. I can do whatever I want. This is my block, so I'm just going to do mine scrappy. There are 3 of these done in the quilt, so you can mix them up. They don't have to be the same. They don't, I mean, there's no right or wrong reason to do this, so go for it, okay? So I've added the teal. I'm going to come over here. I lined that up. It looks great, and away we go. if you are measuring while you're doing it, you are going to have a much squarer block. Is that a word, squarer?
Sure.
Squarer. A block that winds up being more square. Ooh, I don't know if that's right either. More square. I'm more square than my sisters. Well, I might be more round than my sisters. Okay, so now when I pop this open, I should actually have a square, and it should measure evenly. So I'm going to pop that open, just finger press it a little bit, and when I put my ruler on top of there, I have got a 2.5 inch square. Oh, I can live with that. That's pretty dash darn good. 2.5 inch square.
They won't believe me if I don't get close.
I know. They'll think I was a cheater. Okay, so now I'm going to add the next sides, okay? So the next one I'm going to add is, I have to look at the directions always, okay? So the next one I'm going to add is an outside piece here. So, you know what, maybe I'll do that teal another time. I liked that one. And it should be 2.5 because we just measured that square, so we need a 2.5 inch piece again. Anybody asking any questions today, Deanna?
No questions so far, but you got a couple hellos from Diane and Susan and C Neil.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Hello, back at you. So I did best press this fabric before I started cutting any of it. And that's one of the benefits of that you can finger press then, because the best press just adds a little bit more body to the fabric and it really makes it easy to finger press. I know that some of you in class have that little mini iron. Love that baby. That's a good tool to own. Okay, I'm going to finger press open again. And actually on that one, it really wants to. I listen to my fabric. When I pull this back, it wants to pop those underneath there. So I'm going to pop them underneath there. It just wanted to go that way. So look, we've got another nice piece on there, and we're not getting that wonkiness of it turning in on us. We're going to add a piece to this side now. So again, we're going to measure. Put my ruler on there and see how big we are. And we should be right at 3.5, and we're just a smidge shy. Okay, stop. Finger press a little better. You probably should turn on the iron. There we go. Yep, 3.5. Okay, and what color should I do now? Ooh, let's see. Do we want some more reds on that side? So maybe this will be the red side and this will be the green side. Okay, so now on the red, we're going to give ourselves a piece at 3.5.
We did have one person ask what book we're using.
This is the Alex Anderson Beginning Quilting book. So it is the Start Quilting book. I'm sorry, Alex Anderson Start Quilting. We're actually working on the quilt that is called their sampler. It's a sampler quilt. Each one of the blocks have instructions in the beginning of the book. So right now we're working on the log cabin, and it says refer to page 30 for guidance. And they use a piece and cut method, and we're using a cut and piece method, so that way we're getting more precision to this. So we need to make 3 of these blocks. I will have one done right now for you, and then you'll be able to get those done before we meet again next week.
And so far we've done...
Oh yes, we've done the rail fence block, the 9-patch block, the 9-patch variation, and we're just moving into the log cabin. So I can show you those. Nine-patch variation. Oh, I've got 3 of them right here. Are we missing one?
No, because we're on the 4th.
Okay, yes, okay. 9-patch and 9-patch variation. So I've got quite a few little log cabin ones, or rail fence ones done. Let's see if we can find some other fabrics. So we've got our rail fences done. I think we only needed 2 of the 9-patch variation. Oh, well, I have 3, so we must have needed more. 3. There's our 9 patches. So it's really been fun to do. I think the colors have a really neat pop to them.
Another really grueling question.
Yes.
Where'd you buy your top?
Okay, my shirt is 100 years old. I got it from that catalog called Signals. I love their stuff, but this probably is, I would say, 15 years old. I have had it a long time, and yes, I love it too. Any clothing with words on it is really fun. And it just keeps washing and washing. Okay, so where was I at here? I need to cut this piece at 3 1/2.
I don't know why this is tilting.
Because my head is tilted, that's why. He wants to be a tilt-o-wheel today. Why did I forget my Quilter Select ruler at home today? That's the question. Because I will tell you, I am missing it right now.
Oh, this is a great learning lesson.
It's a very great learning lesson. You know, I know that we're doing these every Monday, but, you know, sometimes I get here and I'm like, oh, that would have been nice to have with me. So, real quick here, right now I am sewing on my 4th piece together. 1, 2, 3, the 4th piece, yes, okay, so I'm adding my 4th piece. This piece is now getting to the point where this could easily stretch out of shape on us. So when I'm putting it underneath my feed dogs, I have my solid piece on the top and my bottom pieces that are pieced on the bottom. And my reasoning for doing that is if I put those pieced pieces on the top, the presser foot is going to want to stretch them because your presser foot is designed to hold one part still, which that's what the top does, and pull through the bottom. If I did it the opposite way, this top would get longer because all those seams are going to encourage it to stretch a little bit. So, and the other expression is baggy on the bottom. And that is a good way to remember this because it's a little bit fuller on the bottom because you have all those seams. So there's more there. So it's easier to put that at the bottom. So right now, when I'm doing this, I'm not a pinner. I've been doing this a long time. And a lot of times I feel like when I pull pins out, I distort things or move them. And I don't want to hit a pin with my sewing machine. So I use my fingers, which I'm pretty fortunate to have. And I will just grab this bottom here, and you can see. Maybe come around this side, Deanna.
Actually, here, I'm going to take this opportunity to take this out.
Okay.
It's done. All right, there.
It's making it look crazy. Okay. I can see right now that I've got this right here. Yeah, nasty threads. Okay. Goobers everywhere. Okay, so I've got this here. When I put it down, it is off by the slightest little bit. I can just take this corner with my finger and just give it a little stretch and make them match. Line them up on that line, and then sew them through. It's going to stretch that out a little bit, but it's also going to help it to keep it straight because it's not going to grow any more than that. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew that. And we can see they match up almost perfect at that bottom edge there, which is really nice. And they're not off at the top edge either. So then we're going to go ahead and trim our threads and finger press. And we should be a square again. Because now we've added enough rounds onto it that it's working out to be square. This is a great time to check and make sure you're square. If things aren't lining up on your edges, check the measurements. Make sure that you've measured correctly, because if they're not measuring upright and you start to add to that, your square is going to soon have a wave going on to it. So check again and see what you're looking like, okay? I always say, and I say this a lot, is that if the pattern doesn't tell you to square up, which means to trim it to a certain size, don't do it because you're cutting away part of the quilt. If you need to fix something, you need to unsew to fix it before you take the rotary cutter to it. Okay, so I'm going to lay this down on my table again. Finger press it a little bit more. I'm going to measure my block. I should be at 3.5 inches square. And take a peek, Deanna. I'm hitting it pretty good. I'm a little bit shy on this side here because I'm not perfect either, guys, okay? So that's probably right in that little bit of piecing right there. The other thing that's probably in, because it's hitting the line nicely, if I watch that line, look at that line right there. It's hitting that line right, except for right there. It's on this side of the line. So let me just take my finger underneath there and just carefully, and just give it a little bit of a tug. I'm going to move it out of the way because it could be because of that pressing right there. Okay, remember I haven't used an iron on this, so we're going to be a little bit wonky just because of that. Okay, so let's line up our ruler again, take a peek, and yes, I can be happy with that. Okay, so I can live with that if you can live with that. So now we again need the same size piece because it's going to measure out the same. We should be at 3.5, which we are. We're going to add our next piece. I'm going to add another piece of the red to it. That's what I have for today, is just to make sure that you're measuring as you're going along during this block, so that way you don't wind up with it being an oblong instead of a square. So you will wind up a couple times during this block that you can see it's a square. Measure it, take a look at it. If something is off, unsew at that point in time and then go ahead and complete. We have 3 of those that you need to have done for the next class. Next week, why don't we do a little bit of show and tell, because we still have 3 more blocks to do. And I actually think next week we're going to combine the square dance and the friendship star, because that seems silly to do those separately. The square one actually will be relatively easy, especially after you've done the log cabin. So next week your homework is to complete square dance. No. Blah, 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 blah. Next week's homework is to complete the log cabin blocks. You'll need 3 of those and be ready to go ahead and sew the square dance. And don't forget to get yourself signed up for our pop-up class, which is going to be on Saturday, March 6th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Have your fabric cut and ready to go, and we're just going to sew and enjoy each other's company. We've got 10 spots available for it, so it's on a first come first serve basis. Bring in some canned goods or some boxes, and we will also make a great donation at the same time. Everybody have a great Monday afternoon, and I am sure I will talk to you later this week. Bye now.